And guess what? I didn't go live yesterday. We just got back from being away for the weekend. And so today is the first day back in action. And today I want to talk about, is lack of forgiveness leaving your ministry powerless? Look, we all have those people in our life that we have a hard time forgiving. And I know I do. There are some people that just drive me nutty. But the Bible has a lot to say about forgiveness, our inability to forgive, and actually the consequences that go along with it. So today what I want to do is I'm going to dig into some of the scriptures. I'm going to dig into the book of Matthew a little bit and dig into the book of Mark a little bit. And we're going to talk about the importance of forgiveness. Now, let me just dig in for just a second here on just real life. Here's the reality. People wrong us, right? There are people that have wronged you. There are people that have wronged me, and it's frustrating, right? I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Because we're followers of Jesus, it doesn't mean that we don't get hurt when somebody wrongs us. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden we're immune to feeling like we've just been treated wrong or poorly. But how we respond in those moments will determine a lot about whether or not we can be effective in sharing God's word with others. You know, it's funny, but forgiveness, if you think about it, it goes hand in hand with love. And forgiveness is really the theme of all the scriptures. If you look at it, it starts with God's love. And how does God show it? He shows it through mercy and forgiveness. So today we're going to dig into the scriptures a little. I want to share a few verses from Matthew and Mark, and then we'll dig a little deep, and then we'll wrap up. So I want to encourage you to join me in Matthew chapter 5, and we're going to pick up and read verses 21 through 26. Now, Matthew chapter 5 is part of the famous Sermon on the Mount, right, where Jesus is going through, and you've heard it said this, you've heard it said that. And so as we dig in, do me a favor, drop in, say hello in the comments wherever you're at. But we're going to dig in on this, and we're going to wrestle with some of Jesus' words, because I think when in doubt, go back to him. So here we go. And by the way, this is, which translation am I reading from? I'm reading this from the New English Translation. Okay. It says, you've heard it said, you've heard that it was said to an older generation, do not murder. And whoever murders will be subject to judgment. But I say to you, whoever is angry with a brother will be subject to judgment. And whoever insults a brother will be brought before the council. And whoever says fool will be sent to fiery hell. So then, if you bring your gift to the altar and you remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar first and go be reconciled to your brother, and then come present your gift. Now, this is huge, but I want to back this up, because at the beginning of what's known as the Beatitudes, Jesus says this: blessed are the merciful, for they'll be shown mercy. Now, let's dig in on those verses for a minute. Let's just kind of break down what they mean. So first things first, or I mean, I guess it's kind of obvious what they mean, but let's just kind of dig in on them a little bit. So first, blessed are the merciful, for they'll be shown mercy. You know, it's interesting because Jesus is saying you're blessed if you're merciful, right? What is blessed? Blessed is the, I mean, it's like the gifts of God, right? Like blessings are everything from waking up is a blessing. The air in our lungs is a blessing. Food on our table is a blessing. Basically, for lack of a better way to describe it, blessings are just goodness, right? So you experience goodness if you're merciful. And then for means because, because if you do this, here's the result. It says, you're blessed if you're merciful, for you'll be shown mercy. Interesting. See, and Jesus is talking about our relationship with God, right? He's trying to help people get to understand the power of the relationship that we have with God. And he's saying, look, you've got blessings in your life if you're merciful. Do you know why? Because you'll also be shown mercy. And then Jesus goes on and expounds on it down here. Now, some people get confused, and I want to touch on this for a minute. But some folks, like I've heard it said a lot back in the day when I was a youth pastor, people would say like that these whole things, like you've heard it said, was Jesus leveling up. Like the Old Testament said this, but let me tell you, I'm going to level it up. I want you to also blank. Well, it's not quite what Jesus is doing here. If you notice in the Sermon on the Mount and the Beatitudes, Jesus really digs in on heart issues. he's trying to paint a picture here. It seems like he's trying to paint a picture here that everything begins in your heart. And they didn't believe, heart here. They like kind of thought like in your guts, right? That's your heart. What's translated as heart, but inside of you, in your heart, your brain, your intuition, all that, right? That's where things begin. So when you've heard it said, don't murder, but I tell you, anyone who's angry with a brother is subject to judgment. What Jesus is breaking down here is, look, people don't just start as murderers. They don't just go, oh, I'm going to wake up today and go murder people. Like that's just overnight. They go from being this nice, God-fearing, loving human to the next day going, I'm going to go murder someone. No, where does it start? It starts with some sort of anger, some sort of feeling like, I am so mad at this person, I need to get back at them. I'm so angry at this person, I need to get retribution. I'm so upset with this person, I need to go and even the scales. That's where it begins. And so as Jesus says, if you're even angry with a brother, you're subject to judgment. But here's what I want to point out about this, because here's the part of this that's really interesting. And I think this is where we can end up in situations that really prevent us from making a powerful difference in the kingdom. And that is this. We forget that God is intentional about forgiveness. And Jesus is telling us to do what? He's saying, hey, be like me, follow me. The more you're like me, the more you're like God, because God created you in his image. And so let me go back and reread this verse right here. Verse 23 in Matthew chapter 5 says, so then if you bring your gift to the altar and there you remember your brother has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled to your brother, and then come present your gift. And you know what? I had all these other verses popped up, but I'm just gonna land the plane on this morning. Jesus says, if you get to the altar, if you get to the meeting place with God where you're going to leave your offering, and you remember someone else has an issue with you, you're supposed to stop right there. Don't leave your gift. Go find the person and make it right with them. Now, the interesting part about this, and it's something that just stood out to me for the first time, is that in a small town, right, in an area like in the time period that Jesus was talking, it wasn't like today where we're hopping on airplanes flying across the country, right? The people, people because you typically are living in a community, in the same community, right? You're not traveling very far. You're not gone. You're not just like, hey, I'm going to head 50 miles away. That would take you days to walk. So the reality is that your brother, the person who you've got an issue with, is likely close by. And if you're at the altar, if you're at a day of worship or day of teaching or something like that where you're going to make an offering, the reality is that your brother, this other person, is likely there as well. There's a possibility they're also in the synagogue right then, right there with you, because they're there also to make their offering. So I find it interesting because Jesus says, look, if you're getting ready to make your offering and you remember somebody else has a problem with you, go fix it before you make your offering. The beautiful thing is, it also seems to point out how easy it is to go to someone, because they're probably right there with you. Now, why would Jesus point this out? I don't know. But some things that are possibilities that stand out to me are this. If Jesus is talking about this, if your brother sins against you, if you're at the altar making an offering, he's communicating to a group of people, Jewish people, who most likely all share the same beliefs, which there weren't like 82 churches like there are today and 38,000 plus denominations. This was a group of people, Jewish people, worshiping the same God, so they would be in the same synagogue. And what I seem to see here is that Jesus is pointing out something that oftentimes we kind of ignore. And that is this: in the same church, in the body of believers, we have problems with each other. We cause issues. We cause rifts. Sometimes we get all kind of butthurt over stuff that isn't even worth being upset about. Sometimes We hear somebody say something and we assume maybe they're talking about us because we've had a similar situation, so they must be trash talking me, or things like that. Here's the reality. Jesus is showing right here, fixing the problem before it becomes big is easier than you think. Just go to your brother. How many times when you've had a problem with somebody, do you go to someone else and say, oh, let me tell you the problem I had with so-and-so? I know I'm guilty of doing that in the past. But imagine how much stronger our testimony could be. Imagine those who don't know Jesus, how much more they would say, there's something about following this Jesus that's just different and good. If they saw people who call themselves Christians being intentional about fixing problems that we have with one another. Imagine how powerful our witness would be. Imagine how powerful our ministry could be if people saw us living like Jesus. See, I think when Jesus shows this very intentional, if you think someone's got a problem with you, stop what you're doing and go fix it. To me, that is the perfect picture of how God is with us. In the garden, the serpent came and tempted Adam and Eve, and there's only one reason he was able to, right? I mean, they were humans, they were silly, but God had created them in his image already. The serpent says, hey, God doesn't want you to eat from this tree because you'll be like him. They didn't realize they were already like him. They were created in his image, right? See, but even though they made the bad choice and they strayed from him, he was intentional about reconciling with us. See, he didn't do anything to wrong Adam and Eve. God only did good. God's never done anything to wrong his people. But we keep wronging him. And the beautiful thing is, in spite of us being the ones that do it, he's the one that was intentional about saying, let's fix this relationship. So as I wrap up today, I just want to encourage you. Is there somebody who you think has a problem with you? Is there somebody you have a problem with, or someone who you think has a problem with you? Here's your opportunity to live out that God's image that you were created in. Can I encourage you today, if you think somebody's got an issue with you, please, if they're local, set up time to grab coffee with them. Say, hey, I want to chat with you. I want to fix what we've got broken with us. If they're across the country, pick up the phone. Hey, I know we've had this tension and I want to reconcile it. It's not healthy for us. It's not healthy for anybody. See, there's a reason that Jesus said, you've heard it said, don't kill, but I say, if you're angry with. When we don't reconcile, things build. The anger builds, the frustration builds. And sometimes we get to the point where it may even feel like it's too late to fix it. Can I give you some hope? It's never too late. God didn't give up on you and me when we didn't know him. Don't give up on that person that you're frustrated with just because they're not looking to reconcile with you. If you call yourself a follower of God, if you say you're trying to follow Jesus, well, let me ask you one question. Are you trying to follow him with your actions or just your mouth? Today is your day. Forgiveness, reconciliation, these things are so close if we'll just take the time to fix the problems. Tomorrow, we're going to dig into what happens if we don't. But thanks for tuning into Bible Study Live today. Hey, as I wrap up, a couple things. Next month, March, my wife and I have a new book coming out called For This Reason, Living in Ephesians 5 Marriage. And we'd love to hook you up with an advanced copy of it. If you want to get one, text the word love to 833-981-0002. Standard messaging and data rates apply. Text the word love to 833-981-0002. We'll get you on the list to get an advanced downloadable copy before it's even available to the general public. Look, this is a book that is not only, I'm just going to say it this way. If you've got a great marriage, it can make it better. If you've got a struggling marriage, this may just be the thing that helps you save it. Text the word love to 833-981-0002. I promise you won't be disappointed. Look, no matter where you're at in your faith journey, you are just one moment away from walking one step closer with Jesus. So let me invite you, take the step today. Find forgiveness for others. God's already found it for you. I will see you guys tomorrow between 7